Thank you for joining us to explore the Learning, Equity, Action, and Design Stackable Graduate Certificate. Here is program developer and UT faculty member, Dr. Jason Rosenblum.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Jason Rosenblum. I'm here today to talk to you about LEED Stackable Graduate Certificate. The LEED Stackable Graduate Certificate is a new offering at UT Austin's College of Ed. This has been years in the planning and the design and the development, and it just got into the catalog fall of last year. So I'm really excited about the program, and I'm excited for what this program might be able to help teachers to do. So the Learning, Equity, Action, and Design Stackable Cert really is designed to help people. First of all, it's a fully online program, right? But just to give you a heads up about what LEAD is, it's a program to help both in-service teachers and former teachers, or even new teachers, learn how to not only apply technologies to support teaching and learning. And yes, we do address questions about digital equity, but from the broadest standpoint, right, LEAD is really about helping teachers ask questions about, well, how can I help to humanize what goes on in the classroom at the same time I'm looking to integrate technology in ways that are able to support groups that really need what technology is able to offer, right? So, and that's why there's there's 4 courses, right? And those 4 courses are divided into 2 different groups. One group is the set of humanizing pedagogy classes, which focus on face-to-face learning, as well as online teaching. Those would be the Humanizing Pedagogy Online Teaching Integration and Humanizing Pedagogy and Online Teaching Models for K-12 Education. The last 2 classes focus on digital justice. So technology designs for digital justice and technology innovation for digital justice. These 4 courses represent a targeted focus in how to humanize pedagogy, but they also help people take a look at how we can design for justice-based outcomes, meaning that outcomes that will, let's say, take a group of students through. I'm looking at the technology designs for digital justice class in particular. How can we help take a group of students through a process that not only involves a traditional classroom space, but how can we link to community-based practices as well, which I think is super important, especially when we take a look at questions about the kinds of things that we can and can't do within a typical classroom environment. So the technology innovation class in particular, though, is the class where you learn to build, right? So we're looking at different kinds of technologies, 360 video, augmented reality, other things that maybe weren't in the list when the class was conceived that may be now becoming online, right? So in fact, there's some technologies that I'm now teaching as part of that class that I didn't envision when this program was created. But taking all these 4 classes together, this is a stackable cert, meaning that you can take this for credit on top of an existing graduate degree, not undergrad, but a graduate degree. And you can do it at, basically there's 1 class per term, I think. At this point, when there's enough enrollment, we can increase that. And the result is that you get the LEED cert on your transcript. It is a transcriptable certificate. All right, so all of these classes, right, just like a lot of other classes within C&I, most of the other classes in C&I, certainly all of them within the Learning Technologies program, all these classes are student-centered. Everything that you do, because these are online classes and they're asynchronous classes, I don't give tests in these classes. So instead, though, I challenge you to apply these theoretical perspectives, these lenses, in ways that result in some kind of real life project, some kind of real application. It could be application of theory in your writing. It could be designs of lesson plans. It could be designs of curriculum. It could be designs with technology within these spaces. But understand that one of the things that I value is spending time in these spaces and challenging people, in particular in the justice classes, to take a critical view of learning, right? To really and then to use that view to create designs that go maybe beyond and maybe re-envision what learning experiences in an educational setting might look like. So some of the questions you might ask about humanizing pedagogy and technology integration, right? So what's the difference between equality and equity? What does it mean to design something that humanizes learning? How can technology help? What does it mean to design for justice-based outcomes? How can you apply innovations, right? So one of the reasons I push these questions out there is really to get people to thinking and maybe rethinking their assumptions about what technology is and what it can and what it cannot do in a classroom. So often we get into this discussion about technology, and usually we ask ourselves, and well, okay, what can this technology do? How can I integrate this thing? And oh, I'm thinking about using XYZ technology. I think I might apply it in this way in the classroom. Really, though, what these classes will do is to get you to question the context itself and look at student-centered perspectives. You'll look at sociocultural perspectives, and then you'll read, right? You'll read text, you read articles, you'll read some practice articles too, as well as scholarship actually. And then the challenge is going to be to work online within the EdSTEM discussion forum to really create connections between theory and practice, to be able to synthesize your ideas, work these ideas with other people. We're starting with a humanizing pedagogy class, actually doing just that. In the online teaching models class, this one also focuses on humanizing pedagogies, but for design for online environments specifically. So the tech integration class really focuses on face-to-face learning. The online teaching models class focuses specifically on, online stuff. So that means looking at scholarship related to online teaching and learning, but more than that, looking at things like different models for instruction, right? So we just went through COVID, and hopefully we will never have to go back. But out of that process came what we know now as emergency remote teaching, right? So emergency models for transitioning online. The results, as some of you have experienced, can be, well, maybe less than ideal in a classroom environment. So the question remains, how can we design with those kinds of conditions in mind, but also design outside of emergency remote teaching kinds of spaces, and what can we learn from scholarship across multiple disciplines, including rural education, to help inform our work. And again, in this same class, you're going to learn about different kinds of models. You'll learn about universal design for learning, ERTE, community of inquiry, and you're going to be asked to apply these ideas in your own work to create curriculum within an online technology application, not necessarily Canvas. We look at other systems too, like Schoology and whatever other else technology platform that your school, if you're in a school, might actually need. The technology designs for digital justice class, where I challenge students to really, again, to take a critical approach to really thinking about and even interrogating, practices that within classroom spaces in such a way that we re-envision what a classroom might actually look like. Just to give you an example of this kind of a space, and I'm going to kind of work across a couple of slides here, right? I want to talk about a recent experience I had teaching at Pan American University in Mexico, where I was able to apply a lot of these concepts. I had the opportunity to take this program, quote, on the road, as it were, but it wasn't a 4-course sequence. It was one class. It was an intensive summer class, 2 weeks long, 6 hours a day. And the point was to help a cohort of some pre-service teachers, but a lot of in-service teachers in that class as well, right? Their system is a little different than here in the US. And the goal really was to help them transform their practice of teaching and learning. And the way we did that is through 2 different community service projects. And I used the technology designs piece that's in this class to help these students, right? So both the tech designs for digital justice and the tech innovation for digital justice applied. In one class, we used Pixton, which is a digital comic book creation tool to help children kind of connect with questions about identity and identity building at a local school there that didn't have any internet, doesn't have any internet. We didn't even have access to the building. We were outside. It was 90 some odd degree weather. And so when you're looking at context like that, then we have to approach design of instruction from a very different kind of lens, especially when it comes to technology, right? So we were out there with a bunch of children, with a bunch of kids, no parents, no other teachers aside from where we were, right? A child had to open the gate to let us in. That's how often these kids do this, right? And the kids come from a neighborhood, right? They walk on in a nearby neighborhood, barely have running water. So the question was, when I hit the ground at Pan American University, I got a different picture than what I was told when I first got there. And that picture was very clear, right? Children really didn't have any desire to go to school. They had to work in order to provide for their families. So This approach and what the research is bearing out from that particular engagement, this approach worked, and it worked in some surprising ways. Even when we're talking about not having any internet, as long as we have very considered humanizing design of pedagogy, we can work as designers, instructional designers, as educators in these spaces, as long as we attend to kind of critical ideas about what it means to design teaching and learning for groups like that. And so the solution that I'm applying for these folks to use technology innovations is to bring them into the university, the Pan American University campus. And so continuing the research there in December. So you're going to learn the same technology tools that I taught this summer in the technology innovation class this next spring. Okay. So this gets us into program application. In order to apply the program is fairly straightforward. We have an application process. I will show that to you at the end. There's no GREs, and just having a bachelor's degree with a modest GPA is sufficient. But I would ask that please tell me and please tell us what your background is and what your interest is and how does it connect to these kinds of ideas, right, that these classes are based upon. If you're a graduate student, you can stack this on top of your regular degree. If you are not a graduate student, if you're non-degree seeking, you can still apply. You can still take the courses for credit. And at a later time, you can apply the credits that you earn to a graduate degree at a later point. You can apply all 12 credits that you earn if you go through the entire cert to your own graduate degree at a later time, assuming that graduate degree allows you, to, in terms of electives or what have you. But if you complete the cert, it will stay there, as opposed to having a limit on the number of classes, right, that you can apply outside of being actually enrolled in a graduate program. You just have to be accepted by the graduate school at UT Austin. But again, this is not for undergrads. This is for graduate students only. So you do have to be admitted to the graduate school first as non-degree seeking, and then you can get into the program. Okay. Here's some information about cost and financial aid. The cost of the program really is aligned with the tuition that you're going to pay. So whether or not you're out of state, or if you're a Texas resident or not, how many hours you're going to take, et cetera. So there's not financial aid available, though, if you're not a degree seeking person. Okay, so that is a quick overview of the LEAD program, maybe just a tiny little bit of context. And there's a URL that I'd like to point you to here at the bottom. But I'm going to actually jump out 1 second. I want to take you to the actual application site. Every single class in this program, it's online, it's asynchronous, they're weekly deadlines. And they're weekly deadlines, meaning a couple of deadlines during the week, right? So because we don't meet for 3 hours at a time in a face-to-face class, I basically redesigned every single interaction that you would get in a face-to-face class, redesigned it for an online space. And so that means that all the work that you would normally do for a regular 3-hour class, not including all the project work, is going to be spread out in kind of bits and pieces over the course of the week, through engagements, through watching the videos, through doing responses, et cetera, et cetera. So just FYI about the time commitment and about the need to be able to be organized and to kind of self-pace your learning. So with those caveats, I would invite you to apply, and I would invite you to reach out to me at any time to ask me questions. When you do apply, go to the educationu.texas.edu/equity/lead URL, and here it gives you detailed instructions on the application process. If you are a degree seeking student, you would go to application instructions for degree seeking people. If you are, however, non-degree seeking student, I would do this, and you would go through this very detailed set of instructions. There's deadlines. Don't worry about the deadlines, obviously. And you would apply through Apply Texas, and this is what you should choose for your major. Okay, so that is it for this short overview of the Learning Equity Action and Design program.